Welcome to She Ready to Bloom, where faith meets real talk. Now look, we love grace over here, but some of y'all been calling laziness rest and disobedience self-care. Yes, only God can judge you, but them receipts, they telling the whole truth. This episode, we're going to pull back the curtain on accountability, because grace without growth is just really a cover-up, and you were made for more than survival, so let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of She Ready to Bloom. Unfortunately, as you can see, it's just me. So you guys are stuck with me today. Unfortunately, Praise is not with me on this episode because she's out saving lives for real, y'all. So again, always keep her in prayer, keep that God continues to steady her hands and that she continue to do the best that she can to give life on this side of heaven. We just want to make sure that we're always constantly keeping her in prayer because of her profession. It's not an easy one, you all. But she definitely sends her love. And I just want to make sure we acknowledge her in her absence. So now today, our episode, different little topic today, different vibe. So today we're going to be talking about only God can judge me, but receipts don't lie. So I want you to know that this conversation is a conversation of grace, but also not too much grace, because the receipts is what don't lie. So a lot of times we use the word God don't judge me from a place of grace. So just making sure I put it in context before we get started. So grace conversation, but also a real conversation. So today, you guys already know how I roll. I roll in 3 points always. That's my thing. 3 is my number. And I like to make sure everybody have takeaway from all, as my pastor would say, the note takers. Make sure that, you not only hear what I say, but also have something to go back and look at and make sure that you're good with the conversation today. So our first point today is grace isn't a get out of growth free card. I like the topic because it makes me think of Monopoly, right? The get out of jail free card. So conceptually, same thing. Grace isn't a get out of growth free card. So God does give us grace, and grace is real. However, it doesn't cancel out us being able to grow. So we can also be forgiven, but we're still called to mature, heal, and elevate. So with that point is, I want to make sure that we understand that as we heal, as we grow, and as we elevate, we make sure we give ourselves grace, but we don't allow grace to keep us stagnant, keep us in a state of complacency, even in a state of confusion. We have to make sure that we're constantly working our way in our growth process. Because again, nobody wants to be the same version of themselves forever. And whether you think you want to or not, life won't let us. So we have to make sure that we're always mindful of that. I often tell people that grace is something I had to learn to give to myself. It was so easy to give it to everybody else. And I think it's because it's naturally we're born to cater and care for other people. But what about catering and caring for ourselves? We don't always do a good job at that. I often tell people when I got to a certain point in my life, I had to figure out where was I in my own equation. And when I began to write down my equation for my life, I had so many other things that was before me. So I had to rewrite my equation and pull myself closer to the equal sign, if you will. And in doing that, when you're growing, you have to give yourself grace, because you're not going to always get it right. And that was the thing I had to learn, especially in these last 2.5 years on my healing journey, because I walked through a season of I didn't know. And when you don't know, it's so easy to find yourself just stuck because you don't really want to feel, you don't want to be able to pick up your pieces as often as you think you will want to. I often tell people, it's not until you personally experience something for yourself that you're going to really know what you're going to do, how you're going to respond, and also just your state of being in that space. It's always easy to talk to, if this happened to me, I would do this, or if this ain't gonna happen to me, whatever the case may be. But life happens to all of us. So in that grace process, and when we're healing and when we're moving to a place of elevation, we can't allow our grace to overshadow growth in us, because we have to make sure that we're doing all the right things. We're setting all the right milestones in place for our growth process. Because if we don't take the time to set the milestones, to give ourselves things to be measured by, how do we know that we're growing? So we have to make sure that we're putting all the tools in place to make sure that we're successful in the growth process and not allowing grace to overshadow it so much where we're stagnant and complacent. So that leads us to our point number 2. So point number 2 is the receipts don't lie. Your life testifies. Your patterns, progress, and choices, those are the receipts. So we have to make sure that our fruit will always speak for us. So when we look at our patterns, our progress, and our choices, those are our receipts. So I want you to go back and look at the things that you've done. What patterns have you created from season to season of your life? Because we know seasons change. But if we're doing the same patterns the same way and we're expecting different results, that's never going to happen. So I often tell people, even in relationships, some people display a pattern of behavior. So if you're constantly seeing that same behavior all the time, you think that whether you're with that person for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, that the outcome is going to change if the pattern never adjusts? You have to learn that there are adjustments that need to be made along the way. Because if we never adjust our patterns, we'll never see ourselves progressing. But then it comes by choice. Nothing and no one will stand there and make you choose different. You have to choose different for yourself. I often tell people that's the one thing God always gave us is the ability to choose. Our choices, our decisions is the reason why we are today. Yes, grace is there. His grace is sufficient. Mercy is there. But we still ultimately we're left with the choice. Choose ye this day. So every day we have to choose. Like I tell people, from as simple as getting up in the morning, you're going to brush your teeth or you're not going to brush your teeth. You're going to take a shower or you're not going to take a shower. Are you going to have breakfast or you're not? Are you going to wear those clothes or not? Everything we do, no matter how simple you put it, always starts with a choice. So our choices is what allows us to determine our stagnation and our patterns. And if our patterns never change, our progress never changes. So we have to make sure that we're always constantly considering those things. Because what is your fruit actually saying about you? The fruit that you bear, the things that you produce, what are they saying about you in this season of grace? Are they showing transformation or are they showing excuses? Sometimes you got to sit and ask yourself those hard questions. Am I really transforming myself? Am I pulling back the layers? Am I doing the work to really be the best version of myself? Or am I making excuses for all the reasons why I'm not? I would do this, but that. I would go here, but I can't. I woulda, shoulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda, coulda. In every scenario, no. At some point, we have to change the narrative of the story. So transformation comes from taking a step back, looking at the patterns that you've set. Are they aligned with where you're trying to go or are they not? And then you have to make a choice, whether we want to go with alignment or if we don't want to go with alignment. And then we make the necessary adjustments. And those adjustments will cause for change. Our favorite word we don't like. I often tell people change is hard, is not easy, by no means necessary. Because when we change, we're walking truly in unfamiliar territory. When we're faced with the unknown, immediately we want to retreat and go back to what we're comfortable with because we know what that's going to produce for us. But in order to truly get to your place of authenticity, you have to embrace change. I had to learn, y'all, how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That was challenging because I was always a person who had in my book, I always had the answers. I always had it figured out. And everybody figured, oh, Mika got it. Mika gonna know the answer. Or Major Heart, or whatever role you want to call me. She got it. She figures it out. And I really did. I really felt that way because I am a true problem solver by nature. I look for solutions all the time in everything. But when life had me prostrate and I couldn't even see my way, I was in the season of I didn't know. Talk about being uncomfortable. Going from knowing every detail of what you think you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how you have it mapped out. Yeah, I'm a very compartmentalized person in every way. And then boom, all the compartments, literally all the walls fell. And everything was just one big melting pot. And I had to learn. It was okay not to know. It was okay to learn being comfortable and being uncomfortable. And allowing my life to change me for the better. Because life can either change you for the better or for the worse. You decide. Goes back to choices, back to those patterns, back to the process and progress. So making sure that we are truly honest with ourselves about our patterns, choosing the road less traveled to get to the place of authenticity so I can truly be the best version of myself, and stop telling people only God can judge me, because yes, grace is good, but grace also needs growth. Which leads me to my third point. From guilt to guidance. Walk in what you know now. You're not where you were, but don't ignore where God is taking you to. Stop rehearsing guilt and start respecting your growth. God doesn't just redeem your past. He gives you strategy for your future. So it's so much in that one statement. But one, I want to talk about the now. What we are right now in this season of our life. Yes, we all have a past. Yes, we all have a story to tell. But let the story that we tell not omit where we are right now. And it's okay. Moments of reflection. I do them all the time. Because also it helps me see my growth and my progress, right? So we have those moments. But I'm not going to keep looking back so much where I'm not present in my now and what God is doing in our lives. So making sure that our now, that we're capitalizing on it. One thing, I guess, if I reflect on a moment, y'all, if you've been through any of my social media platforms, depends on how long you follow me, I'm forever sharing all the time, right? Then I had an aha moment with myself. It's like, sometimes we're so busy capturing our moment for other people who don't even watch it, or who probably don't even care, right? That we miss being in the moment ourselves because we're trying to capture it for somebody else, right? So I had to learn how to scale back. That doesn't mean you don't continue to do it, but I had to scale back that a little bit so I can be present in my own moments, in my now, so I can truly see the growth and the progression that I had made within myself. So therefore, as I continue to look at who God was birthing me to be and who I'm becoming from seasons to seasons of my life, I can learn to appreciate that version of me just as much as the version of me that I thought was banging back then, and our things that we did in our 20s, baby, when we got to our 30s, we couldn't do them no more. And I'm in my 40s, so there's some things I definitely can't do no more that I did when I was in my 20s. But I still appreciate all of those experiences, and I appreciate my journey, but I really do love my now. So making sure that we don't rehearse guilt and start respecting growth. Because sometimes guilt has a way of, sometimes we always feel like what we could have did different, what we could have did better, or if I wouldn't have did this wouldn't have happened. Yeah, but you wouldn't have learned the lessons. You wouldn't have all the things and the tools you have to not make those same choices again, but also make better ones. Because if you didn't do those things, how would you know what choices work and which ones don't work? And so that's why we keep that measure of grace in those moments, because we have to make sure that we're giving ourselves the true ability to respect where we're at and how we're growing, and not reverting back to things that probably, I'm gonna say shameful, but things that we weren't so proud of, because you'll always have those things. That list of things will always be there, because even when we're growing, I promise you, as sure as my name is Kamiko, you will run into somebody and spin the block, and they be like, "Ooh, remember when you used to?" No, I don't remember. I asked God to remove the thoughts, but in reality, they still happen. So again, just know that you will always have that one person at the most unopportune time bring up the one thing you like. Out of all the things you know about me, you want to talk about that. it happens all the time. So we still make space for it. And again, we just use it, glean it from what? Hey, I've grown. Thank God for growth. Sometimes you can look at your throwback pictures and say, Lord, I thank you for growth. Because back then we thought we was doing it. And it's like, oh, what a change has come. But again, remember, God doesn't just redeem your past. He gives you strategy for your future. And that's one topic I'm big on, making calculated decisions, strategizing for our future based on the things that we did in the past that didn't work. So the things that didn't work in the past, we're going to remove them from our strategy because they didn't work. So we're going to make sure that all the things that God is showing us in our season of redemption and our season of growth and our season of progress, that we're going to apply all of those things to our new strategy that will allow us truly to grow forward and not, I would say, lean heavy or overshadow our seasons of our lives, giving ourselves more grace than we should. Because yes, we should give grace, but then at some point, we got to say, all right, now we need to go ahead and shake the dust from our feet and roll up our sleeves and, get back to work again. Because again, the best version of you is waiting to meet you. And not only waiting to meet you, there are other people that's waiting to meet that version of yourself, because that's what is super, super important in who we are. And on this journey of only God can judge me, right? So we have to make sure that we're giving ourselves all of those things. So in a quick wrap up, first point, grace is not a get out of growth free card. 2, the receipts don't lie, your life testifies. And your receipts are your patterns, your progress, and the choices that we make. Last but not least, from guilt to guidance, walk in what we know now. So remember that God already handled the judgment. He already took care of it all. Now it's your turn to handle the growth. You're not who you were, but don't forget to water who you're becoming. Because in your season of blooming, it's going to take some watering. And that's what we're here. We're here to water each other, make sure we till the soil for each other, encourage each other, give each other the sunlight that we need, those positive affirmations, those words that one needs to hear from somebody else because we can't find them from within. So make sure, again, that we give ourselves grace, but not so much grace while we slow down our growth process. Again, hopefully you enjoyed the episode. As we always ask you to like, share, comment, and subscribe to all of our platforms. And we're looking to see you on our next episode. Go Bloom!